once he hit me with that name, we didn't have to go very far on that. So, but meanwhile, we'll have a lot of time to discuss some important issues tomorrow, Bill. But as always, thanks for being on Tuesday Night Sports Exchange, and we're gonna have a great show tomorrow. So for everybody out there, get ready. We'll be on probably around 9 o'clock or so for our weekly program. So, Bill, thanks for being on tonight, and we will do it again in less than 24 hours. How's that sound, Mr. Winters?
Always a pleasure. Good night, fellas.
All right, good
Take
night,
care,
Bill.
Bill.
Appreciate you, buddy. So, I'll tell you, that title is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I tell you, I am sold on it. I really am.
Yeah, I didn't really start thinking of titles until about today when I came in here and I was driving over and I'm like, idea of a baseball show. What kind of title could I, come up with that we could use that would be catchy? I obviously had to do a little searching to see if there were any titles that I mentioned before. But
You didn't even think about titles until I told you to come up with one.
yeah, hey, I like it too. I'm not gonna put it in an art museum next to the Mona Lisa. But,
Why not?
Because it ain't gonna fetch the money that thing does.
Well, I don't know. Market it.
Yeah, market it.
Market it. Come on, don't be shy.
I'll put it
Bucky
in the-
Waters. You learned stuff from your mentor or not?
I'm putting the Louvre. I'll put it in the Louvre, right? But no, it should be a fun show. We'll have some good guests on. Hopefully, we'll get some pretty great guys on. Obviously we'll look to have Mark Littell on at some point doing that show with us.
Right.
It'll be you and
we're
me.
gonna bring a lot of people
We'll have
in.
Tony DeMarco on, your mentor.
Yeah.
We're gonna have some good guests on, and we're gonna talk the best game in my opinion. But we got
we'll go
the
from
closer coming on. Here's our Mariano Rivera.
We'll go from my mentor to our friend Xavier McKnight. What's up, Xavier, the X-Man? Welcome back to the Sports Exchange.
Always great to be on with you, Scott, and you as well, Lewis.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Good.
So, we've been talking some basketball tonight, but a lot of it's been NCAA stuff, but we're going to do some NBA stuff, aren't we, Xavier?
Yes, we are. But before we jump on the topic, Scott, I'm not sure if you guys have discussed this. The initial college football playoff rankings have come out.
Okay. Talk to me. What do you got?
Well, here's how our top four round out. Ohio State sits at number 1. LSU's number 2. Alabama's number 3. Penn State comes in at number 4. And the final two remaining out at 5 and 6. Clemson at 5. Georgia at 6.
Wow, Penn State, number 4. That one intrigues me.
Yeah, it's been a while. It looks like they've reestablished the reputation they had prior to that scandal about a decade ago.
Well, Bill O'Brien was the coach that took over for
the Texans
Paterno.
now, I believe, right?
Well, yeah, he's with Texans now, but he took over for Paterno. I actually met Bill O'Brien when I saw Wisconsin take on Penn State over at Madison.
He's always been good at coaching with less than everything that he's needed around him. He did good that year that the Texans went to the playoffs when they had Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, but Bill O'Brien's always been a pro coach, but he cleaned up a very tough situation over at Penn State before James Franklin took over.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, interesting stuff, Xavier. Are you surprised to see Penn State number 4?
I'm not, because they've been playing great football all year. But now I will say that an already intriguing matchup between Alabama and LSU just became so much more intriguing, because now you have the number 2 and number 3 ranked teams in the country. And Scott, Lewis, I'll say this right now. My thoughts and my prayers and my condolences go out to the remaining opponents of the Clemson Tigers for the remainder of the season, because they're about to wake up now. The Clemson team that everyone had been looking forward to seeing this year, that epically offensive team that everyone thought would set records, that shutdown defense of Dabo Swinney and Brent Venables, they're going to come to life starting this weekend. So Penn State, they're holding on to the 4 seed. They have some tough matchups coming up, one being against Minnesota. Has to be noted, P.J. Fleck signed a 7-year extension there today, and he's now going to be there through 2026. So that's going to be an intriguing matchup. But Clemson's the number one team I would watch out for. I wouldn't even watch out for my Georgia Bulldogs in that standing because I don't expect them to hold on. I expect them to fall a little further out later on in the season, especially when they get to the SEC championship game. I don't believe they're built to beat either LSU or Alabama. But, it's really saying something that the College Football Playoff Committee left an undefeated national champion out of the rankings tonight.
Well, it's funny how you talk about Minnesota. I was about to bring that up until you did it for me, and that contract extension that Fleck ended up. Here's a guy that can actually make a name for himself up there, and he is in a Power 5 conference. So even though Minnesota's never been considered a higher echelon, but to be in the Big Ten, you're in the Big Ten, and this guy's 38 years of age, and he's having incredible success. So I don't know. I think that Minnesota-Penn State game could be more interesting. And let's not lose sight of the fact that Michigan nearly came back and tied Penn State. So the Wolverines gave Penn State a little bit of a run in that contest up in Happy Valley as well. So, yeah, I it's a credit to, like what Lewis said, that Penn State's been able to come all the way back from that Joe Paterno situation with Jerry Sandusky. But how long they stay there is another story. But Penn State's going to have some tough test, too, without a doubt. Have they played Ohio State yet? I don't know if they have yet.
No, they have not. And that is a game that's coming up, and that's going to be another must-see TV matchup there. But, Scott, as epic as some of these matchups are going to be, I'm still just stuck on the fact of some of the scores that I now believe Clemson is going to start putting on the scoreboard for the remainder of the season. Because this is an undefeated national champion. I understand they haven't played their best, but, there are some teams and there are some guys who you don't wake up. And that sleeping giant known as Dabo Swinney and those Clemson Tigers out of Death Valley,
right?
I think this was a mistake.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting, but I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad that you kept us up to date on college football playoff. You know me, I do it, but I'm kind of busy talking to people 3 hours a night. I'm in this studio missing the World Series, although Lewis has missed a little bit too, but he keeps me up to date any way that he can. But no, that's good that you're able to bring that up. Thanks for incorporating that. Now let's talk about what the task at hand. We touched on it on Thursday night. Now you're going to go into it full-blown today about Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. Certainly not the year that the Warriors expected, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better, is it, Xavier?
Well, if I went just based upon last night, I would have to come in here with a different argument because they had a nice back and forth matchup with an almost fully loaded Portland Trail Blazers team with a cast of no names led by Eric Paschal, who on his 23rd birthday last night, he scored 34 points and grabbed 13 rebounds. So I don't believe that there's too much more to look forward to this season in particular for the Golden State Warriors. But I could be wrong because we're very early on in the season, Scott. And, allow me to just bring everybody's memory up to pace here a little. A lot of things can happen in an 82-game season.
Right.
I remember in the 2010-11 season, the Philadelphia 76ers started that season off 4-13, and they ended the season as the 7th-ranked team in the Eastern Conference, making the playoffs. Now, am I saying the Warriors can do the same thing? No, I'm not, because it's a different scenario. It's a different conference. We know what the Western Conference represents, but I wouldn't be so quick to shut them out just yet, because what I saw highlights of last night, that was a team that fought. Scott, just listen at this.
Mm-hmm.
Klay Thompson's out, Steph Curry's out, Draymond Green's out, D'Angelo Russell's out. And, of course, we know Kevin Durant's now in Brooklyn.
Right.
I did not expect them to come out and put up a fight, let alone defeat the Portland Trail Blazers last night, led by Damian Lillard, who came out and put on an absolute show last night, scoring 39 points of his own. He's definitely one of the more underappreciated players in the league. But I saw some fight from a Warriors team last night, and there's not too much for them to look forward to this season. let's go into specifics here about Stephen Curry. We now know the extent of his injury, and we now know how much time he's expected to miss. So it was a fully broken left hand, and he had surgery on Friday, and he's expected to be out for the next 3 months. Depending on how the team fares in between then, I question if we'll see him too much more throughout the regular season. I seriously do question that, because even though I'm giving that cast of no names last night for the Golden State Warriors credit for that win, I also now question how the remaining opponents that they have coming up in the near future, how they will prepare for them, the film that they'll watch for them. Because this is a lot different than preparing for the Splash Brothers with Kevin Durant and Draymond Green, than Omari Spellman and Jordan Poole and Eric Paschal and Marquise Chris and Willie Cauley-Stein and some other guys who I don't even know by name right now, because that's just how the Warriors look right now. I can't identify them. It's very hard for me to believe that this team, this organization, was just in the NBA Finals 5 months ago. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. I'll give the floor to you and Lewis right now before I go on to further things that actually give the Golden State Warriors fans hopeful. The floor is yours.
All right, well, my question to you, and anybody that wants to contact us can go ahead and contact us at southtribune@gmail.com, is at what point or another will Steve Kerr get tired of losing, knowing it's one thing that to drop off a little, but to drop off a lot, how much he can take until he decides, well, I may not be the right guy for a rebuild, even though he did an incredible job with that team. But does he last?
That's a good question. Yeah. That's a good question, because we haven't seen Steve Kerr in that type of environment yet.
Right. And
I'm glad you brought that up, because now this plays a huge role into the fact that you came to a team that was coming off of a 51-win season, and Mark Jackson had done a great job building that team up and establishing that team's culture.
Right.
Now, Steve Kerr, he definitely came in and he added some different things to the offense. He unlocked some different things there that Mark Jackson wasn't doing. He turned Draymond Green into a weapon that I don't think anybody knew he was capable of being in the NBA. Now, if you watched him at Michigan State, that's a different story. I watched him at Michigan State, and I knew he was an all-around good basketball player. I didn't know he was going to be this in the NBA. And when you look at Steve Kerr and you look at how he's from the Phil Jackson and the Greg Popovich tree, and also from the tree of Mike D'Antoni when he was the general manager in Phoenix as well, that's something that a lot of people continue to forget about, that Steve Kerr was the general manager of those Phoenix Suns teams in the mid to late 2000s that just couldn't get over the hump.
Right.
He was the general manager of those teams, so he learned from 3 dynamic coaches, especially offensively.
Right.
But as far as the rebuild situation goes, I don't know if he's the right guy to actually experience this with. But what I will say is it's a reality that I believe he's coming to accept, because even throughout the dynastic run, Scott, you would continually hear Steve Kerr say in press conferences, this isn't the real NBA that we're living in right now.
Right.
I tell these guys all the time to enjoy this. You don't get these opportunities every day.
Right.
And we are tremendously blessed. And now that has come to the forefront now more than ever.
So are we going to go out there and put Mark Jackson in the Tony Dungy discussion, where Tony Dungy laid it out there for John Gruden to win and Mark Jackson set the table for Steve Kerr? Think about that dynamic, guys.
So I'm going to pose this. Xavier, tell me if you agree. This season, they're 2-5, 2-6 right now. It's already lost.
Yeah.
I mean, if Curry comes back in, say, January and plays 2 months for them, what do they win, 35 games? It's a bad season. It's the first time they're under 500 in, 9-10 years? That's not great. Kerr's been there through those 3 championships. Those are 4 or 5 finals appearances. But the thing is, with a healthy Klay Thompson next year, and especially the fact that you don't know if Anthony Davis is going to – obviously LeBron's getting older, though he still looks dynamic in L.A., and Anthony Davis, he may go somewhere else in free agency after this season.